Barcelona with some familiar faces, the Dagga Couple. Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Imagine seeing you here.
Yeah, imagine meeting you here. It was quite a surprise meeting you here, actually. I had no idea you were going to be in Barcelona.
I heard rumours you were coming, but I just was so busy I didn't have a chance to reach out before I got here. But it's nice to see you here.
Great to see you guys too.
I wanted to chat to you about Barcelona because the clubs, we're in a club right now, and you guys produced a document as a recommendation in terms of the way forward in South Africa for how we could run cannabis clubs there, based predominantly on Spain, but Barcelona was one of the territories. Just give me some insight into the clubs and how they work here.
So we first encountered these clubs in 2015 when we came for our first Spannabis, and we've been back 3 times since, just for the inspiration and a lot of the direction that these clubs and their experience can offer us.
And the guy earlier was telling me that the first club in Barcelona was in 1994, so they've been doing it a long time.
They've been doing it a long time, and they've been sort of in and out of conflict with the law. They've got lots of experience within the courts, and there's also been a lot of documentation come out of here from various activists. And we were really excited. We've just been in Vienna at the United Nations, and for the first time there was a whole side event dedicated to self-regulation. Because that's what it is. It's self-regulation, which is very, very important for us in South Africa. Especially seeing as there's this cannabis control bill or whatever they're going to call it coming out fairly soon. Yeah. So it's very sort of hot, the connection between Barcelona and South Africa at the moment, yeah.
We see it as the greatest way there is to preserve the culture of cannabis, because basically all we have around us here is a drug consumption room, just like a pub is. Like when you go to the Keg and Whistle, you're going to socially consume drugs. So we just want the same thing. We just want our own private space that we can be surrounded by like-minded people smoking excellent weed that has been checked and tested. I wouldn't call it a reasonable price in rand. Jeez, it's
especially at the moment, with the exchange rates.
We've been away 10 days doing the UN, as Myrtle said, and in that time the rand has gone down 20%. You've got rand in your pocket, yeah?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. So it's getting a bit more hectic as we go along. So we scored some weed in Berlin to our door with a selfie on WhatsApp. Take a selfie, send it to the dude, he finds you in the street.
Wow, that's service, huh?
So that's another. They haven't got any clubs there, but they do have the right to associate. It's very laid back in Berlin, but this is what we're interested to hear. And there's more and more of them happening all the time. And I think you've taken some footage of here. It's very sophisticated.
It's very sophisticated, and that whole stigma of the criminal side of cannabis is not here at all. You don't feel that. You see guys walking in suits, really different kinds of people. But for those who aren't aware of how clubs work, from your experience, what is the basic fundamental foundation and framework in terms of how a club works?
So it's on two legal principles, which is the right to privacy, which we've won in South Africa, and the right to association. So as we've advised everybody in South Africa with our Dagga private clubs, as we call them, you need to get all of your paperwork in order. The basic right is like that of a golf club or a tennis club. So you have members who join, and then the association within that club allows you to share cannabis. So it's very important that you keep your records very tight, so you know exactly who your members are at any stage. You manage those memberships. The people who are not active within the club fall away, and that is how you manage your stock levels and your revenues. So that's the basic principle of it, the right to association and the right to privacy.
The government hates it really because it's lots of grey areas, because the weed has to be in a closed loop. It has to be privately grown by the members of the club to transact between them. So that's where the government doesn't trust us in any way. They think it's all going to evaporate into the black market and we're going to be selling skunk to school kids tomorrow or something. Yeah. But that is not the case anywhere around here. You've got to have a plan as to how big you want to be, and nowhere in Barcelona that we go to wants a big club. There's a couple of hundred members, 300 members. It's not like thousands, and they don't do social media in any way. It literally is a word of mouth place. So that's another cool thing. And at Fields of Green for All, we regularly get mail saying, "Tell me how to start a club. I want to start a club." And we say, do you want to make money? Do you want to get rich? And they go, sure, man, sure. And we say, well, that's the wrong job for you then, dude. Yeah. It's not about that. It's about preserving the culture. You will make money. You will become abundant if you do it right. But we're not. It's not the main thrust of it is not to commercialize things. The main thrust is to enjoy the company of stoners in a stoner place for stoners by stoners.
Yeah. Let's talk about culture, because with this big sort of green rush that's happening at the moment, there are certainly people who are into the industry who have no interest in the culture whatsoever. They just see it as a money thing. Let's talk about the culture in Barcelona and why you think cannabis, I've been told on my trip here that there's huge amounts of cannabis being exported from Catalonia specifically, and Spain seems to be becoming a real hub in Europe for cannabis. Why do you think that is? And let's talk a bit about the culture in Barcelona specifically.
I think that we've got a very similar thing going on in South Africa to here, because it's all about the sun. It's all about the amazing weather. We came from Berlin, which was about 4 degrees and pouring with rain, to this lovely, balmy Barcelona winter weather, and it's about 15 or 16 degrees outside. So for sure the growing conditions are what really trumps it. But when it comes to all of this export stuff, we have to say that there has to be space made for everybody, and you will always get your big businessmen, and us as activists, you can't fight against that. But I think that you just have to look at it from a human rights angle, so that you can preserve that culture, because our cannabis culture and human rights go hand in hand. They need to walk that path very, very closely together in order for us to preserve this culture. And I think even more so in South Africa. That was one of the reasons why we brought out the Dagga Private Clubs document, is because of our huge gap between rich and poor. And there needs to be clubs in informal settlements, clubs in small rural towns that are really battling to keep going. The small towns of South Africa are dying. So I think that a club is a way to give back and leave nobody behind. The regulations need to be written in a certain way, like they are here in Barcelona, to be able to include everybody and not to have this whole paranoia about over-commercialization, but at the same time to promote smaller clubs and the culture. And it'll all balance out in the end. It's a big mess at the moment, but it will balance out in it if we stick to our guns and we support our local farmers and know who your farmer is and know who's growing for your club and all of that, because that's what people like. And after all, who's going to buy the weed? The people out there. If they like clubs better than they like a pot shop on the high street, then we've made some way, because
it's certainly been an eye-opener for me seeing this. I mean, we were all over for Spannabis and ICBC, which was unfortunately cancelled due to Corona. So we're out and about trying to make the most of this. Are there any other things you can recommend people coming to Barcelona that they check out from a cannabis perspective?
One weird thing that we saw the last time was, if you go down to the very, very bottom of the Ramblas, you will see a statue to Columbus and his trip to the New World, and it's this mighty, mighty column. And if you look closely, it is completely carved in stone with hemp leaves all the way up it. And if there wasn't hemp on his ship, he wouldn't have got to the New World in the first place. And that's quite a staggering thing. So there's been a culture of it here for a long, long time, but not so much as a narcotic, mostly as a industrial process. So it's really cool to see the Narcotica coming back one time. And in Barcelona, I don't know what else is there to see. There's lots and lots of museums and things to see, but as cannabis culture goes, it seems to be getting easier and easier to bend the rules around here for people like us with foreign passports to come in and enjoy the space. Because when we first arrived, there was one place we signed up for that had a 30-day cooling off period, so you couldn't do it as a tourist. So the rules are getting bent, and they're getting bent in the nicest possible way, just like any Dagga private club should be. The hawks will call you drug dealers when they arrive, but we know that you're not. We know that you're doing it all with integrity and intent, and you're right on the edge of the law, and so are these people here, but they're doing it in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, I think that's what's been a big eye-opener for me is the quality, the class. It's just, there's nothing seedy about it. And you're right, I think there's a lot of parallels between our environment and the weather and the growing potential in South Africa. So I'm certainly very interested to build links with Spain, and the people I'm meeting here are very interested to build links with us because we have huge potential, as you know.
Yeah, maybe what we can do is we can make like partnership agreements between South Africa clubs and Barcelona clubs, and like they sometimes do with schools or towns. They have this like twinning thing, I think they call it, and then we can do this like twinning thing, and then when people from South Africa come from a partner club, they can get discounts, and
we need discounts with the exchange rate.
Sure.
we certainly are. We're chasing the discounts.
Yeah, 110 rand for a cappuccino now or something crazy. If you think
burns.
it gives you indigestion,
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for taking time to speak to us, and enjoy the rest of your trip in Barcelona. I'm sure we'll be hanging out a bit more.
Yeah,
For sure.
Great, man.
Yeah.
See you around.
Cool.
Over and out from Barcelona.